And it did. Welcome back to the front row seat. Here we are again. And Pamela and I are going to work on this some more and see what we get to. And thank you for being so lovely and willing to come do this work with me. It's not an easy road, as you know, and I know it too. But I just know that as we free up all of these spaces within ourselves, we get our energy back and we'll get into a better vibration from where we were as we move forward. So welcome back, Pamela.
Thank you, my dear. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, I love how you said that so that we can working through this stuff so we can free up space for all of the good vibes.
Yeah, I was just me. I had this weird thing going through my head. It was like, okay, so I try not to have beliefs around stuff, but just use the metaphors to try to understand this realm I'm in, right? So it was like, okay, well, let's use the metaphor of, okay, it's a simulation. So, okay, well, then that means it's kind of like a computer. Well, if it's kind of like a computer, what if the earth realm is kind of like the defrag part, right? The part of the computer that edits out the junk and organizes the files into more cohesive patterns so that the whole computer can operate and function better.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting.
Because I was thinking about that. It's like, that's what this place seems like. Because, as I, do this inner work and learn more and come to know myself better, that seems like what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going through these old files that have, misinformation in it, or, or information that I could have, taken the wrong way because I was a young mind, So I was thinking about that. Maybe we're just that's what we're doing here. We're just kind of like defragging the computer. So in the defragging of the computer, we did a lot yesterday, didn't we? Or was that the day before? Yeah, it was the day before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I think that kind of connects to what you're sharing, what you're, pondering. I think it kind of connects to the detaching, right, from taking all of this so seriously, right?
And that it's not out there. And
that's massive.
Yeah. And when the out there is just really wonky, it's doing this thing, it's so much easier to try to grab onto that and try to work it back into something that works better, because it seems backwards, because it's out there where it looks like it's, wobbly and wonky, but really it's inside, and it's at these, we've got a wonky IP address that we're, that's activated and that's working. It's usually a fear of something or something that happened to us in our past, and it's triggering that, and and that's going on. And it's just, there's just so much going on in the inside world, and it's really hard to understand. We don't have a lot of information about this place coming in, so it's kind of like you just got to figure it out as you go. And so it's really hard to you just want to hang on to it, like a hot potato. It's like, if I do this, that'll fix that over there. If I do that, it's like, let go of it and go. And how are you feeling? How's your body feeling? I found that a lot as I get older. You get these aches and pain, and my body would just be tight and feeling bad. And then I noticed this, this, I got to do that. I don't want to do, and I noticed this not a very good vibe going on in my mind, it tends to, and then it's like, they're all so related together that it's hard to figure out which way to go, it's like,
no, that's really what I am wanting to really dive deep into, is the understanding of that. because I think that's just my nature to begin with, right? Like, I just want to know how it works, because then I'll obviously better know how to walk through it, right? Navigate it. But so if, you know, how you're sharing what's going on out here is a reflection of what's going on in here. And we've known that stuff for a long time. But when you get to a certain place where you're actually understanding a lot more, and you're like, no, seriously, that's actually how it works. These aren't just pretty metaphors and, you know, oh, you know, mystical. I guess it is kind of mystical, but it's also not. Does that make sense? Because
Well, yes.
I think there's a lot to understand about that. So if you would elaborate on that, because I think that would help me where I am now. I'm kind of in this weird place of, because I'm doing so much better, like still plenty to process and grow through and stuff like that. But I'm in a weird place because I think I'm ready for more understanding, you know, because I feel like I'm right now, which I should actually be enjoying, is the plateau. I should let myself enjoy that piece, right? And just rest up for the next dragon slaying battle.
Yes. Oh, the dragon slaying battles. And I think it's something that will, you know, once I learned how to do the work a little bit, I think it's just something that you will continue to do throughout your life, because we are a work in progress all the time, and we're learning and growing from the time we're born to the time we die. So I don't think it ever stops. And I think that, you know, learning about the process is really helpful, because then you can manage your life a lot better. And instead of it just being a constant glitch, then it can be, then you've got a little glitch here, and then you work on that, and then you got a little smooth sailing. Then it'll glitch there, right, and then you get a little bit. But when you're just glitching all the time, you never have the smooth sailing part. So I think that it is worth it, because you do get those, you know, you get those little, you know, intervals of peace, and it just makes all the rest of it a lot easier to do, because you do get inner peace. You get more energy, because we have so much energy tied up in things like, you know, our ego. Because if you came from a difficult background, what happens is we have to build a lot of defense mechanisms in that to help. I think it helps support the young mind until it can get old enough to work through some things and heal and grow on its own. It's almost like a protective device. So, you know, coming from a difficult background, I developed this ginormous ego that was, you know, really coming out, you know, every time I faced something in my life that I needed to deal with within myself. Well, I couldn't, because my ego would jump in there and go, oh no, it's not you. That's out there. And all you need to do is just pick up a hammer and hit it, and it'll be fine.
Beat the crap out of it.
Grab it by its head and slam it into the wall.
Repeatedly. Rinse and repeat. We are kidding. We are kidding.
We are kidding. Don't do that, because it's not out there.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, as I was doing some of that ego work, I still do it, because it's still got little pieces of it, but I've chewed it up so many times it doesn't know what to do now. It's like, do you need some help? I'm like, no, I got this.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
It started asking me for help. I kept telling it, you need to leave, you know. And the story that really helped me in understanding what's going on within me, and all this energy I had tied up in the ego part of it, right, was I saw that, you know, working on me and facing my fear and facing it head on, instead of running or blaming or all that other stuff that the ego does, you know. I would, you know, just see myself in the middle of an arena, you know. Here I am. Okay, I've got my sword. Here we go. And here's the fear standing in front of me. And and I'm face to face with it, and here we go. And then here comes ego walking up next to me, as I'm trying to do something, and there it is, and I'm looking at it going, and then it's going, oh, don't mind that, just call it a name, it'll go away.
Yeah.
And then I learned to use my imagination to help myself, because you can use your imagination as a tool to help you in all kinds of ways, right? So I used my imagination. I would visualize this thing. Then I would be the me facing the dragon. Then my ego person would walk up, and I put like different hair on the ego part so that I could separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
And they had different color hair. And then I started seeing it when it would show up, and I would just nicely ask, excuse me, I am trying to slay this dragon right here. It's dragon, and you don't know what this is like. You've never done any of this. You've just got me in trouble, and you're my ego. You're not my amigo. So what you need to do is go sit up in the stadium with everybody else. Go over there. Just kind of, I don't need this right now. I don't need your help. I'm busy. And just visualize it in your mind. And I could really start feeling that shift from this really defensive ego within my mind to just fear, because that's what I was facing, was my fear.
Right.
Because that's what your ego is doing. When things get scary in your mind, well, you got these defense mechanisms that pop in and kind of like take over. And it's the ego that does things like, when you get upset about something, when it's really fear, that jumps out there and projects those things out into your world when it's not out there, and it's not somebody else's fault. And that's why, I really, it wasn't like forever. I would say 6 months or so of just diligently paying attention to it.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why am I trying to defend myself? What? Okay, I'm just here having some lunch, and why do I think that I'm fixing to be, put on the rack for something, because that's kind of what it feels like when just little things happen in your environment, just little bitty things that trigger that old stuff that you've got going on. But see, again, if this place is just a mirror, which it seems like it is, well, it's not that out there is just triggering you, and then it's reflecting you. That's part of what's in you, is what's out there. And that's when you get it the right way round and see that out there is just to help you see where you're at and what you're doing.
It's interesting because through the process, I'm learning that I am like, you're very creative. And I'm actually seeing how I do, for me to separate it. What I've been doing now is like, you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. That's how, so when something comes up, I stop myself, or I allow myself to feel it. Which, you know how that goes, but
yeah.
And the levels of the pain or the emotion that comes up it varies depending, right, on the trigger and the experience, whatever. But I'm seeing that as long as I can remind myself that I am not my thoughts and I am not my emotions, then I'm not identifying as that. And it's probably because I'm not so right-brained. Does that make sense?
I think you're more auditory and I'm more visual. So
yeah, exactly.
So
it's super interesting because I'm just learning all of this about myself, and it's actually genuinely helping me understand how to, it's like understanding the system, right? It genuinely helps you walk through this place. Yeah. So understanding how how very literal I am and how I work, and there's a lot for me to learn about how I function, but it does feel good. I'm not saying that it's not as hard, because it's freaking hard no matter what.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Oh, and what you went through last week, was it
Yes.
last week? Okay. So, I mean, all of the work you have done, and I mean, and like genuinely sticking to it and diving in and holding on. And so it was interesting how all of that work, and then here you had something come hit you fast and hard. So it's like, as you said before, it's a lifelong process, right?
It's not, it's not a one and done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because what we're really doing is we're not like taking, like getting parts of us that we don't like that we find within us and chunking it out. What we're really doing is we're just learning about all of ourselves and integrating that into one whole being, one whole thing, instead of just all these parts that, have not been integrated and you know nothing about. And what I've learned so far is that human beings are the most complex thing ever. We're not like other animals because we have this mind and all this other stuff going on. Other mammals, they're just going kind of the way their instincts, they're they don't really think about thought. They don't think about what's going on here. Yeah, they just do things, right? And so we have a complexity that other things don't have, and the complexity of what goes on inside the human mind is just enormous. It's a huge thing, and when you first start looking at what's inside of you, it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. It's like, oh my gosh, all that's in me. And it's like, yeah, you've lived a lifetime. It's all there. And all this energy that you are is you. And it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. And
it's a lot to understand.
It's a lot to understand, and it's a lot to get it to where your life is functioning in a way that's empowering and helping you learn and grow here, instead of feeling like it's just here to batter you about until you can't walk anymore.
Right.
Getting it out of that, oh, this place is trying to do me in.
Yeah. Well, and that's because I'm kind of going all over the place now, because I know that started with the concept or the understanding how this works. And I know for me that is incredibly important. And that's what I'm learning about myself, is that, so at work, I'm asking about stuff that doesn't really even pertain to my job, but I'm like, but it does, because if I'm affecting you in some way, then I can do it more efficiently and more effectively, so it doesn't screw up what you've got going on over there. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's that thread that connects it. So it's the same thing with us, right? I can show how that's actually a really good metaphor for how we affect each other.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm doing here is affecting the whole, so that's the basic understanding of it. But so if it's a computer,
glitch.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going, I don't know enough about computers, but I really want to, I don't even know how to word it. I just want to understand. So I get the whole dynamics of the theory, right? Which I deeply connect to.
Yeah. Tom's theory.
Yeah.
Simulation. Yeah.
So
it's a good one. It's a new one,
And I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me, Anyway, so how would you, so on a daily basis, I'm going, take it down to the pixels, take it down to the bytes, take it down to, how would that work? How would that work?
On a day-to-day basis, what are you reaching for here?
Yeah, Yeah, we probably can't go here right now. I have to ponder on it more within myself so I can be more clear with my question. Because I know what I want to say, but I can't put it into words. Like, I'm sorry.
Like how does each day? I mean,
Yeah, I
I
get.
think each day, and I think that it loops and does the everyday thing where, I mean, look at it, where you get up in the morning, you do your morning routine, and it's like it's just a loop, loop and loop and loop and loop. And think
Okay.
about it. What's that going to do every day? You're doing the same loop, and I think it gives us some kind of, stability. Like, think about it. If say we didn't do this loop and wake up every day, or wake up in the same place that we put ourselves. What if we woke up in a whole nother VR? Well, see,
Right.
that would be really hard to learn anything
Yeah.
there. And it also, it's our feedback loop, the feedback loop. So everything you do today and your yesterdays affects what's happening right now.
Okay. So, like with my choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's my perception. And that's the whole basic idea, right, of this reality, because we each have our own perception.
Yep.
And that perception just limits my access to certain information, right?
Yes.
So
you gain information too, because you have information that someone else that's not you could have. So you have information others don't have, and then others have information that you don't have.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because they don't want my information.
Well,
Talk about
do.
Maybe they do.
Maybe they do. You just don't know.
So I guess I find that super fascinating, just the whole idea that that's how it works. That's how it's supposed to be, right? That's what makes it so rich with the opportunities to grow. So
yes, differences make us strong.
Yeah. And
pretend to not be alike is not helping.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No.
Well, and there wouldn't be any challenge in that, but that's kind of interesting too, right? Because if it's a virtual reality and it's a feedback mechanism, so what if we all look the same? So what, right?
We wouldn't get the variables. We wouldn't get like you can have a relationship with one person, right? And it has this certain dynamic. Then you have a relationship with this other person and it has a different dynamic, right?
But what if we look the same? So what would that matter?
That would just be like a mirror in a mirror.
See, these are the silly questions that it's like, what, because I'm all about, let's just get down to business. Let's just go and learn and get to it, man. So
okay, we're getting this done.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
So
and it's just so crazy how, we how we want to know, okay, what's the rules? Give us the rules. Tell us how to do it and to make it not so painful. And just tell me. And that's where that thinking is, because we don't like pain, and
right.
we tends to be kind of the teacher here, and we don't want to suffer, and we don't want to see anybody else suffer, but that's just the way it is, and pain is the way it is. And the way we make this better is we order ourselves in such a way to where it doesn't cause other suffering for others. And to, when you choose to do this inner work, what you're really choosing is you're choosing to make it better for yourself and everybody around you. So really, that's the only tool that we have to deal with the pain and the suffering here, is that we can order ourselves in such a way to where we're not adding to it. And that is a noble thing, as I've been out in the world and I've seen people, that, they could care less, okay, if I'm doing this, how it affects somebody else. And there's a lot of that, I see it. And I have it within me too. And don't get me wrong, all these things that I see out there is in here too, but I can kind of see how looking at, life in this realm in a certain perspective, it causes order and is helpful. And then other ways it causes disorder and is not helpful.
Right.
And so, not doing it out of fear, but doing it out of, compassion and for myself and for other people, because when I go out in the world and I observe other people, I know that they're suffering and they have pain too, and so we're all in this together, and we're all suffering. We all have pain, and the work that you and I have done just in the last 6 months, we've moved in a lot of ways that we weren't able to before, because we didn't you got to have someone to bounce things off of, because
Right.
it's hard to see yourself when you're looking in your own mirror, right? And it's just you. And then it's like, well, no, you're going to tell yourself things that aren't true.
Yeah. Right. Well,
Yeah.
because it's your perception, right?
Yeah.
So you're just gonna yeah.
Yeah. So we need others and they will mirror us back to us so that we can actually see where we're at. Because when we're caught up in our ego and we're not being kind, well, we can see that on somebody else's face.
Right. Right. And within that,
I did it again. Darn it.
yeah. That, I think that's a really big one.
And it's about telling the truth and being authentic, like the last week, when we kind of, I don't know, the year of the wood snake or whatever, all that was going on. When we it's kind of funny, isn't it? When we kind of hit that thing, and it wasn't just me, everybody was struggling. And I was like, okay, this is a systemic psychic burp or something, so it may have something to do with it. It may not. I don't know. All I know is what I observed, but it's like that. It's like we're going along, and then this thing happens, and then instead of learning to not project it out there, and then staying with that vibe and feeling the way you do. See, that's being authentic. It's when you're feeling that way and you're acting like this. Oh, how was your day? Right? That's not how we were feeling last week.
Right.
We were going,
good Lord.
I don't know. Do you know anything about that? I don't know. It wasn't. Oh, hi. That's not how we felt. And it's being authentic and telling the truth to yourself, to other people. And it's not easy to do. We learn bad things from this place. Oh, to get out into our culture, you need to be nice. And it's like, we need to be kind to each other, but that fake niceness doesn't help us. It doesn't help, because now if you're out working, yes, you have to have a certain thing. I'm just talking about your day-to-day thing when you're living your life. And, and not lying to yourself and saying everything's okay when it's not. Okay, I don't feel good right now. I'm going to go over here and sit with myself and see what this is, and letting that be there and being authentic that yeah, I'm feeling this. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'll get to it. It'll come, and working through it and facing it. It's like, yeah, that's mine. And then eventually it'll just come up, because this realm has a way of bringing you to you. And so if you just stay with it, because at first you're kind of pushing, well, it didn't feel good. But then if you just kind of drop your hands and just let it come on in, here it comes. And then you can kind of work your way through it. And it's just a constant practice. And that's what it is, isn't it? In that life,
Oh, absolutely.
You're just every day. And then you get another chance the next day to try again, to practice again and practice again. And each day, what you're doing is you are, you're turning your lump of coal into a diamond, and what does it take? It takes pressure. It takes struggle. And that's what drives us as human beings, is challenges, not utopia. People who live in utopia, they eventually get unhappy. Why? Because they have no challenges. There's no challenge there. And see, we're not here to just enjoy everything. We're here to learn and grow. That's what this place does to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Whether we like it or not.
Mhm.
And that's why, you just want to put, like, you put a little goal in front of yourself. I'm going to go and I'm going to do this new thing. And it was a challenge, but it's giving you life. It's giving you energy. It's giving you something outside of what you had before. And when you first start doing it, like you and I dealing with the computer world, like we have been, when you first start doing it, when I first started doing this, 2 years ago? No, 3 years ago, when I started playing with really getting into the computer thing, and I would get actually mad at it because I would get so frustrated with it. Then I learned, okay, hashtag step away from the computer, just step away from it, then come back and try again, and then come back and try again. But now I can do stuff with this thing, like we're doing this thing right now. Now, back then, there's no way we'd be sitting here talking to each other on this. There's no way. And it was a challenge, and I think that's just part of it. Just continuing to put those challenges out in front of us, because not only do they help us learn and grow, to be able to do more things, it helps us process the information and help us work with our energy that we're here working with all the time.
Yeah. And that brings to mind too, the letting go part, and which is a really bizarre place to be, but I'm getting a taste of what that feels like to just go, oh, whatever happens. And it actually freaks me out. I get freaked out because I'm like, wait a minute, what are you saying? And I'm like, no, that's really how I feel. Just you're making this choice. And I don't even really have it's just, this is a choice that I'm making because I always want to make the choice that's in the best interest of all, not just, that's literally where I am. And so it's just a really bizarre place.
Letting things happen.
Yeah. Instead of going, oh, I'm gonna, in a year, this is gonna, I want this to happen. I want that to happen. And now I'm like, I have no clue. I don't have any idea. And I'm like, this is freaky.
Well, I don't either, Pamela. What are we doing here? I have no idea. Yes, it's a valid place that you end up getting to, because once you start rolling back that, ego, and you start, and you stop trying to manipulate out there so that it makes the pretty picture you want, then you start sitting in the seat of the observer, right? You're just observing and watching what's happening, and then things happen, and then we deal with it, and then you grow from the choices you make.
Did you go through a phase? Do you recall, like, if you went through a phase or that transition, right, from having the ego have such control over everything, and then moving into that space of, I'm
really not in control of much.
Yeah, well, and
absolutely. I remember when I was
going, well, this feels really weird. Like it's almost, it's like you can't explain it because it's just you've never experienced it before, and there's not a lot of understanding around it. What Tom has shared, and he's like, that's called the uncertainty, right?
Yes, and being uncomfortable with uncertainty.
Exactly.
And we do have a fear of the unknown. We all have that.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have that, and that's the fears that we face, is the unknown. And it is, in this journey and in this process, once you start really working, doing this inner work, that's what happens. You get to a place where it's like, wait a minute, I'm really not in control of other people. I can't make other people's choices for them. I'm only making my choices. And why am I trying to control this situation right now? So you start questioning what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it chases it right back down to a fear every time. Mm-hmm. Well, if that person acts this way, then it won't trigger my other thing that I've got going on over here. So I need that person to do what I need them to do in the way I need them to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're controlling. It's always based in fear. So the point I'm trying to make is, yes, I did get to that space, to where I stopped controlling and I let go of the control panel and just started, wait a minute, I'm not in control of that. And I leave them people alone, Cheryl, let them have their free will. And I got really good at letting people have their own free will. I still do it sometimes, but we all do. And then understanding that my free will makes my choices and just letting that process happen. At first, when I first started getting into that space where I wasn't trying to control everything to make myself feel okay, I didn't understand what it was. I thought I was like, am I depressed? Am I really bored? Man, maybe I'm just really bored. I know what you're talking about. It's a weird feeling because there's nothing to do.
Oh my God. That's hysterical. That's true. It's so weird because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't. It's like, oh, I'm in agony. I'm in agony. It hurts. Yeah. And so, right. Just process what's going on, go in there and figure it out. It's like, there's no boo-hooing, no blaming somebody else. It's just like, oh shit, I got to figure this out. Okay. And it's not even, oh shit. Sometimes it's just like, no, this is your stuff. You got to go figure, you know what? Walk right into it, walk right through it and stick with it because that's the only way.
It hadn't killed me yet.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, if all of that unawareness didn't kill me, this certainly shouldn't.
And because you know what? It is a ton of work to control all that out there, or you're not really doing it. Everybody's just kind of playing with you, They know that you're controlling. When controlling people's in the room, you know that they're controlling. It's just them that don't know that they're controlling.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is interesting though, that we're all doing that, right?
Oh, yeah.
In certain degrees. Exactly.
Yeah. It is if you just quit doing that and then I get to feel better and I feel more in control of this uncontrollable thing that we're in, which is really ridiculous because it's not controllable. Things happen here. And then we deal with it. That's how this place works, and sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes horrible things happen. Sometimes great things happen. Sometimes good things happen. All kinds of things happen. And we're interacting with this thing. And then when you're able to get into more of just watch it, then you're not trying to control other people. And then they treat you better because it feels better for them to not have to deal with you trying to control.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I was and still am to a degree a pleaser, right? And understanding that that's a fear of, there's several mixed in there for me. And so it's like, and it's still
acknowledged. Yeah. And
so it's like, you don't think that you're trying to control things out there when you're a pleaser, right? Until you grow enough into a space and going, oh, that was me not tending to this fear that I have about my unworthiness, or I don't have value, or I don't matter, or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's interesting because a lot of people would think that they aren't trying to control things. That brings to mind what Tom had said probably on several occasions about people saying, oh, I don't have any fears. And I'm like, oh my God, once you start this stuff, they just start rolling in. And then you actually do start seeing how much you're trying to control everything. Right. It's so, and it makes so much sense, especially when you get past some of the really, I'm sure I have more heavy lifting to come, but some of the really brutal times, and then you get a peek at what it tastes like to go, oh man, I am trying to control this. And then that little taste of going, oh my gosh, I think I'm actually getting the concept of letting go, that the system's got my back, right?
I don't have to do all this.
Which
Thank
brings
God.
Yeah. Truly. But it brings to mind like what you went through last week. And then that whole, all of a sudden you sent me the picture of the whale. And you're like, see, we're not alone. And that was such an incredibly beautiful reminder, because I'll be at work and I'm like, okay. And like, there'll be, because I'm so sorry, but I'm appalled at people because it's like a teenager's room. And I'm constantly picking up. I'm like, seriously, but whatever. It's okay. It's all right. I mean, at first I was appalled. Now I'm not so much anymore. I'm like, it is what it is. Right.
Yeah.
But, so now sometimes I'm like, oh, did the system do that? Is the system playing with me? And I'm like, you'll never know. Cause I, it's like, I want to know, but I'm like, I'm not in tune enough yet.
Yeah.
Right. Cause it's actually really cool. And to
It's
know
really
that
funny how things just show up sometimes,
Yeah.
and there's some days I'm just doing my thing. And then all of a sudden something will happen. And then I'll go, okay, that's a piece of that fear that I worked on. Okay, we're doing a little bit more on it. Okay, what's going on? And then I'll face it, and then it just drops away, and I don't feel anything come up. I don't feel the fear come up in me anymore. Then another couple hours later, then another one will come up.
Oh my God.
And I swear the other day, it was me in the system. And I think it was just seeing where I'm at with all of it,
That's so beautiful.
It felt like it was going through all the file. Well, where are you at with this one? I had this fear of, okay, this might be kind of gross. We have a big dog, right? And every now and then that spit comes out.
The old guy.
I used to have a fear of it, right? I didn't like it because my brother used to do that, and it would get on me, and I didn't like it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had this little about it, right? Well, what do we get? We have a big dog, and then he comes walking in, and it's just dripping,
Yikes.
And used to, every time I'd turn and see that, then I would and just backstroke panic, and it was like, no, wait a minute. That and then when this happened, it was probably 2 days ago is when this day did this thing. And I looked at him, I saw the thing, and instead of going having that reaction I used to have, the reaction was different. And then I had a reaction of, I turned and I looked at it. See, this is that just observing, and I looked at it, and instead of feeling anything, it stayed neutral. And I just walked over, grabbed a towel, and wiped it off. There was no, oh my God. No. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So as you work down your fears, like it'll be up here, right? And then each time you face it, it drops a little bit.
That's so cool. Yeah.
It drops a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. But that's, don't get frustrated if it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up until you're done with it.
Right.
And you need it to come up so that you can get it all the way down to where when you observe the thing that used to freak you out, it's a neutral. And the only way that, I guess the system works is it can tell that that's how you can tell. How you can tell that it's working it down to a nothing. So I had that one. And then I looked over at, the dogs, they bring you all kinds of gifts all the time, Have you worked on this yet? And then I have another one about dog hair. We have 3 dogs, And so now when something happened, it was all just rolling out. It's like everything that I've worked on, this last 6-7 years, wow. I just had a series of them come up in a row. It's like, well, how about this one? How about this one? And before, when that happened, I used to get really frustrated because I would go, I thought I dealt with this. Why is this here again? It's like, well, because maybe you need to know if it's completely gone, because you want it completely gone to where when you observe what you used to fear, that it doesn't trigger you. It doesn't come up in you. Like the first fear I worked through was fear of big dogs. I had it was justified. A big dog bit me really bad when I was 25, somewhere in there. And I developed a fear of big dogs. And every time I saw one, and then they started materializing out of nowhere, running at me with leashes, right? Because then I started
Oh God.
manifesting
Yeah.
it. I had more and more big dogs coming at me. And then
Oh,
Carl, which is this giant dog, he followed me home. I had a little dog, right? Because they didn't scare me. And then Carl, I turned around and I was like, okay, that's the biggest dog on the planet. And I ran all the way home with my little dog, just terrorized. And so he came to live with us to help me out with that.
that's so cool.
And I used to tell you,
Seriously.
my own dog scared me in my own house. But I just picked that fear to work on. And of course, he showed up in the house and I got to work on it every day, you know.
Yep.
So I finally got all the way to the end of it. And then I got a Doberman puppy. And then it was like, I knew right then when I saw the Doberman puppy, it's like, okay, because that's the breed that bit me. I was like, okay, I've worked all the way through it. I am no longer afraid of big dogs. And that's how it's done. You just, you know, the one that keeps coming up, well, that's because it's in there. It's because we have
Right.
a fear of it.
You know, okay, so going back to that whole thing that we create our reality.
Yeah.
So would all right, maybe elaborate on that a little bit more too, because I get it. I get it, but yet I'm still kind of, it's still kind of fuzzy because it's my perception, right? So I'm reading the information through the lens that I have with around the level, the quality of consciousness and my level of awareness and all that good stuff. But I don't know. Sometimes I get confused because so it's like, it's my reality and I'm creating it. And I know it's a multiplayer game, right? Obviously. So, but so then like we obviously are not responsible for other people's choices. So I think sometimes I get a little bit wrapped around that one. In the dynamic of,
Why is that in my life?
you know, and I mean, I guess I understand that part, right? Because it's certain experiences. Well, I guess that, yeah. Why? Because there's some things that I can go, okay, well, you know, it's my lack of trust in myself. So that there were things that happened right in front of me a bazillion times, and I never really made a conscious choice. Does that make sense? Like I just kept kind of going through. I knew that I didn't want to continue to participate in it, and I wanted things to be different, but I'm sorry, I'm not being very clear today.
Is it about like sometimes how we get in relationships with people who are not kind?
Yeah, and it like at a deep level, and I understand. Like now, I have a far greater understanding of why they behave the way that they do, and I don't. The anger is long gone, and I actually have empathy for, and I care about them. I do.
Is what is it? And these are the questions you can ask yourself. What is it within me that caused me to get into a situation like this? Because in every dynamic, right, you've got so you've got someone who is abusive, then you've got someone who is who has learned that being around abuse is okay, and that's normal. So if you grew up in a situation where that was a normal thing and that's what you lived through, people not getting along, people not acting right, which humans can be horrible.
Yeah, right.
They are. And you know, that's the thing that you look at is that, you know, it's not about how you got where you got. It's about how you're getting yourself out of where you are. And yeah, you know, we would like to know all of that. And but we really can't because we don't remember every single event that happened in our young life.
Right.
And there's going to be stuff that comes up from there. Something happened, something scared you. Well, then you're going to start creating more of that because it's in your mind and it's a fear you have.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that because like my entire life, I was in constant fear. It was just literally not a break.
We're in a fearful, our culture and where we came from, ours is a little different. I'm from the South, and you're up more north, but I grew up, everybody is in fear.
Yeah.
Everybody's in fear.
In different levels, right?
Yeah. We didn't come from a caring, kind society. We came from a fearful, defensive, a thing where it was, it wasn't about others. It was every man for themselves,
right?
Everybody for themselves, and nobody's cooperating or caring. So that is the nature of where we came from and the way our cultures are. And until, we learn and grow and things get better and people learn about, what we're here to do, it's going to stay the same. But the work that we're doing, that is part of the work that helps things change.
Yeah. And I do have to
we're not just living out all those little fears, and we're not doing that anymore.
Exactly.
We quit it.
Yeah, truly. And and I think that because I have to remind myself that this is why we're here, Pam. It's like, because I don't often go back into, oh, this happened to me. I'm literally aware of the fact that happened, and so it's my job to grow. It's just my job is to grow through it, right? That's literally why we're here, and then that also helps me depersonalize it.
Because just wait, it's coming. I mean, whatever your fears you have, I mean, just wait a minute, they show up. So
yeah, exactly. I'm kind of scared now.
Yeah.
That next one,
yeah.
I'm getting a little break so I can recoup a little bit for the next one to come and wallop me.
But each time you get walloped, you get a little callus there. And instead of it just completely face planting you, it's just kind of, okay.
Yeah. And
that hurt. What is that? What am I doing?
But I feel like you come out of it with more joy.
You do. And it gets easier to do it as you go. Yeah.
I noticed that going into work, I have a better, because I would always have to remind myself, no, you're doing this. You have to go in and you have to take care of business and you have to face this stuff, because if you don't, this is what your life is going to be. And now that I kept doing it and kept going and I can see little by little, I feel differently. I literally feel when it's remarkable.
Yes.
And I'm
so good. The challenge of what you're doing, it's so good for us. That's how we learn and grow. It's by challenge. We just stay stuck without challenge.
Yeah.
Stuck right where we're at, wherever that is.
And so what are your thoughts around somebody, okay. So going back to what we were talking about before, like somebody, you're in that relationship or whatever, and it's not about it's not anything to do with, I mean, like those days are really gone about, oh, that happened to me. That it's literally, it happened for me. That's what's there now.
And you had to get yourself out of, we have to get ourselves out of the victim mentality, because we can't do any work or change if we are, well, that happened to me because of that over there. You don't have any control over that over there. You only have control in here.
So, don't step on that. Come on, silly.
You in another dimension.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not the cat.
What reality would you like to go to? Just kidding.
Oh, and that's why those same situations, keep repeating themselves and presenting themselves.
Yes.
And if you notice the patterns in your life, I did, and I noticed the patterns, different places, different faces, same old scenario,
Right. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
same thing. And I don't do that as much anymore because I started making choices and being aware of the choices that I'm making and what I'm doing, And
So I think my question is around like, so when you, because I would have encountered this stuff no matter who I was with. That's just the truth. Like that's just how it is. And trust me, the couple of people I was in a relationship before I got married, I was like, holy shit, they're all the same. And I'm like, that's because it's you, dear. Yeah, I was like, oh. But I find it interesting because I'm like, oh, when you're, before we come into this full immersion reality, I'm just kind of ponder like, oh, I wonder what his lessons were. I wonder what he came in to learn. And that's how we got paired up, right? Sometimes I ponder on that because I find it fascinating and super interesting.
Yeah.
And, because and I also question myself because I'm like, why are you still hanging around? Right. And I'm like, well, because I care. And I don't have any like negative intentions.
And it's allowing others to be where they're at. And I think that we all come in different locations,
Yeah.
And I think that you bring who you are, the quality of your energy, more fearful, less fearful. I mean, in different dimensions. And I think that, I think we come in like that. And I started really believing that that's the way it is when I watched the new ones coming in. There's some babies, they come in and it's like, they got it down. They're just old soul and they're just swimming through it like it's nothing,
Yeah.
And they love it and they love life and they love being here. Then there's other little babies that come in here and they are panicked, stricken. They're not happy and they cry a lot. It could be part of their parents, but I've seen, the same parents with all these different, personalities in the kids, some of them are freaked out by it and some of them love it. And so I just think I think they call it temperament, but I think it's really the quality of your consciousness that is attached to that avatar baby. Yeah. So I don't know for sure. We can't get outside of here to look, and look under there. What's under there, but I have seen that kind of thing when when I've experienced babies that some of them are just, they're just not happy at all. And it seems like, that they're not happy to be here. And then there's other ones that are just thrilled with it,
So do you think the ones that aren't happy to be here are the newer ones?
Because they just have more fear in their within their energy, more fears there.
So how would you describe then like the difference between newer ones? I was trying to decipher that between a newer one, but a newer one wouldn't have a lot of fears necessarily, right? So
again, it's speculation again, because who can know this stuff? The thoughts I had around that, I listened to a lot of what Tom thought about all that. And he's, it is a computer and we're these IUOCs. It's like we're a program in the computer, right? And so what the system would do when it brings in more, because more babies are being born, if it needed more IUOCs, it would just copy and paste from the mid range, and then put them in there and just let them go, and either they'll de-evolve or they'll evolve. Either way.
Oh, okay.
You go forwards and backwards in this place,
No, thank you. That
a lot of people that are seekers and stuff. I think that I think that comes in with us. We've done it a few times before. We know there's something here we need to do.
Okay, yeah.
So they would have more of a propensity to be looking for that kind of information. where other people that are just learning, that are just new, they're not looking for any information. They're just living their life,
Yeah.
It's really hard to notice the little delay in that, that what's in our mind is out there, and the whole mirror thing. It takes a minute to piece that together. And I don't think someone that's just super new here would pick that up right away. And that's kind of what Tom said. He said the older souls, they know more. You know more. And because we have different dimensions to our mind, right? We've got a tool in the mind's toolbox. We've got intellect. We've got intuition. Intuition, usually right hemisphere. Intellect, usually left logic. So we have these dimensions that, we can engage in and strengthen. And that's why I think some kids come in, oh, that kid's just a prodigy. He's a music prodigy. Well, what if it's a soul that's been a musician, 5,000 lives? Well, yeah, they're going to come in with a propensity to be able to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then that would drive them into what they, want to do.
Okay, that makes sense though, because and then it just came to mind too that Tom always said anything, how do you recognize a fear? He's like, anything negative is coming from fear. And that has walked me through so much, because I'm like, are you being negative? And I'm like, yeah, well then you're coming from fear. And I'm like, it's that simple. So that clears up that again, right? So when somebody is being super negative, that's fear.
Yeah, that means they're in fear. And what do we do? See, when we're not trying to control anymore, right? And then when someone, or let's say someone else in our realm is being negative, if you can, and it's hard to look at that being with compassion. It's like, okay, they're in fear. Okay, me going, oh, booga booga, that's not going to help them. What do you do with an animal that's in fears? You kind of step slowly away from it,
Yeah.
Give it space, let it know you're okay, but you can't come out and say, well, you're just scared. That's not going to work.
Right.
No, it's not our job to grow up for anybody else, just ourselves, but just recognizing what it is and recognizing it within yourself. Every single time you have a negative emotion or negative feeling about something that just happened, it's always fear underneath there. It could come up as anger, as rage, but like I like to say, anger and rage is just a little red beanie that fear likes to wear. It's like, let's just be mad, because anger anger, it almost feels like it kind of releases the energy, when you're mad and you can vent it,
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Then you feel bad about venting because it usually hurts others,
For sure.
Yeah. So, it's just recognizing when that anger rage comes up in you. It's like, okay, I am scared of something here.
Yeah. Well,
looking around, what could have triggered me here? What just happened that I could have been triggered? Something in me. What is this? And then just getting curious and ask those questions about what is this? What are we doing here?
Truly, because I also remember like Tom would say, how negative are you is your life negative? And I was like, like very, and even like the small things, like he's like, how do you react when you stub your toe? And I was like, oh, holy mackerel. And I noticed like I also noticed I say like a lot. So I apologize. I'm noticing that. And I'm like, man, but I saw that and it's gotten better through the work, but I would stub my toe or I would like lean into something and I would go into rage mode. And I'm like, why are you so angry about this stuff? What prompts that? And so it's just the unprocessed pain.
It is.
Right?
Well, it's just fear that you have in yourself.
What creates it to come out at that level? I mean, I don't rage at other people. I mean, well, except there was one in particular. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, not proud of
Yeah,
that,
we've always got that one in particular,
right? And it's plenty of reasons, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, as you know. But
Yeah.
but that what causes that to get so intense that you stub your toe and then you feel at that intense level
Well,
like
it's
that?
energy, and it's energy, right? Fear is an energy. Love is an energy that we give to others. It's not something we get. Love is an energy that we give. See, you can give love to someone, and then sometimes they can give it back, and then you feel love from that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I see a lot of things happening where I think the whole concept around the whole thing is backwards, and it's the same thing with fear. Fear is something you give. See, so if you carry a lot of fear and everything's is scaring you, then you stump your toe, you feel pain, right? And then that pulls up all that fear and anger and rage and all of it. And to me, the more fear you have, the more anger you have.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then just some little thing, can happen, and then you just act like that someone just came in and stole your car or something, uh, and, and it was just somebody set something down on a desk that you didn't want them to. Yeah. You just did that to make me mad. No, it's like, no, you just express what you have in yourself, because
Yeah.
you could always, if somebody puts something you don't want it, you could always just pick it up and put it where you want it. It's not that big.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Whoa.
Well, if they would just put that where I tell them to put it, then I wouldn't have to be mad right now.
That's that control thing.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yep.
Wow.
And as you keep going deeper and deeper in it, you're really able to let people just be where they're at and have what they have. And, you're not, because when it's like that, you have choices there. Because as your fear goes down, your choices get more involved and you get more choices in that space.
Yeah. The bigger
So
decision.
instead of just, if somebody, I'm just using a metaphor, somebody puts something where you don't want it. Damn it, you just put, well, as that fear comes down, right? Now you have the choices that you see that happened. Oh, they just put that where I don't want it. Oh, but that's okay. I can always move it to where I do want it. See, now you've got two choices instead of the one of getting angry.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So your choices and your decisions, the quality of them increase because you have more choices you can make. That was one of the reasons I really love this work, because then I could have more choices.
Yes.
And I was getting something different and not the same old thing over and over again.
Right.
And then when somebody gets frustrated or upset, and then I just look over and I see them, ooh, they're having fear. I'm going to go over here and let them deal with that, not try to fix them. Just let them have their stuff.
Right.
And now if somebody's just coming at me and just, sometimes you just got to let them do their thing, and then you question yourself, is that the kind of person I want to be around?
Right.
So there's always choices in everything. And we get to make those choices because we have free will. We get to make them. And that's another way our culture was really not good to us, because we were told what to do as children. We weren't allowed to make our own choices. It was just get over there and do it. It wasn't, okay, we're going to do this. Would you like to do it this way, or would you like to do it this way? And you give us two choices, and get that choice maker engaged, because the quality of your choices is going to bring the quality of your life.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God.
You can go from a space of being mad and trying to control everybody all the time, where you're making your own choices and you're in control of you. So you have that sense of control. You feel that sense of control, And then you don't need to go outside yourself and be controlling out into the world like you were before, because like we were, that's how we grew up. It's like they were controlling us, and then we learned that, and now we're doing it again. And that's why, don't beat yourself up over this stuff. You know, it's like it just rolls downhill, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and everybody gets it until somebody is like, you know, I don't think this is necessary to do it this way anymore. I think I'm going to make my own choices and let others make theirs, and just let things happen. Because as your fear goes down, your fear of the unknown goes down too. Because I think that we're born with these, you know, these things. It was to keep us safe, you know, because think about what the fear of the unknown does. Well, it's like, say for instance, a child walking up to the edge of a cliff, right? Okay, well, I've never seen a cliff. Let me just keep walking, see what happens. But see, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I've never seen that before. What's it going to do? It's going to back up. Well, what is it? See, and I think it was there, and it kept us safe in a world where there was predators in it, you know. But that's deep within all of us. It can also keep you from growing in your life. Because if you're constantly fear of the unknown, then you're not going to make any new challenges for yourself. You're not going to grow. You're not going to evolve. And there you are. You're stuck and stagnant again.
Yeah, definitely.
It is.
Oh.
Well, I think this is a good place to stop, because that was a nice little pause there. And I think this was a great talk, and we can stop there and say toodles to everybody, and thank you for coming. And
Thank
we're
you.
going to do this again soon. And we're going to keep doing it until we learn and grow and become the non-controllers that we wish to be.
Yeah.
And we're all controlling, and it's okay. We're not doing anything wrong. We're doing our best with what we have, isn't it?
Yeah. When you say the controllers, I think it makes me think of the controller, the video game controller.
Yeah, just put it down. Put the control down.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Thank you. Take care.